And I sold the company about 3 years ago and started doing some more research about things. I'd always written books about stuff that my clients were interested in so I could get on stages and talk at conferences. I kind of like to say I invented thought leadership and content marketing before we had those terms and those kinds of specialists out there in the world. It worked really well, so when I sold my company, I decided to do it for myself, and I started working on the next book, and accidentally, sort of like Viagra and 3M sticky notes and microwave ovens, I landed on this stuff. This is not what I thought I was going to end up doing, but here we are. So let me tell you a little bit about value graphics and how we might change the way we look at the world. We waste 90% of our time and our money on Bob and Sally. And here's what I mean by that. I had this company, we were focused entirely on selling and marketing high-end condominium developments, communities, resorts, office towers, and every time we started a project, someone in the room had some very, very convinced idea around who it is we were selling this product to. And they had gone so far sometimes as to write up little stories about who these people were. They gave us little personas and said, Bob and Sally, they're 47 years old, and Sally's 46, and they live in the suburbs, and they drive a minivan, and their kids go to soccer practice for the little boy on the weekend, and the girl takes piano lessons, and they have a very busy life, and Bob commutes, and he's a white-collar guy, and he's mid-management, and all this stuff that they'd made up about their consumers. So we'd run away and we'd build these big campaigns and we'd put up a sales center and we'd throw together a billboard and we'd do our TV commercials and everything we had to do to help sell out these high-end condos, lease these offices, whatever it was that we'd been hired to do. And 2 years later, we'd show up to see who was there. And there wasn't a single Bob or Sally in the room. And we'd shrug and just go, oh well, it sold out, it all went fine, and we'd just go do the whole thing all over again. And that's sort of the basis of what I want to talk to you about today. I think we're wasting 90% of our time and our effort. What if Bob and Sally actually showed up? What if we knew who Bob and Sally were in advance for sure, and we could actually build things, not just condos, but clothing and restaurants and sunglasses and vacations and banks and everything. If we knew who Bob and Sally were in advance, what would the world be like then? 18 to 24, 25 to 36, 37 to 45. I don't even have to finish reading these things out loud. We all know what I'm doing. These are the age categories, and I know that we all understand how important these are because it's the first thing we do whenever we start a new project or a service or anything. We sit in a boardroom and figure out what's the age category that we're going to be doing this thing for. And then we start making stuff up. And we say, okay, if they're 18 to 24-year-olds, clearly they're going to be into this and this and this, and we shouldn't be doing that and that and that. And if they're in an older age category, they're not going to like technology very much. And if there is going to be any technology, it needs to have really big buttons on it, and it's got to be super, super simple because those folks just not very tech friendly. Well, I'm here to tell you that that stuff's absolutely not true. We've gone and done this massive body of research. We've got close to 400,000 surveys in a data set now that stretches around the world. It's a random, stratified, statistically representative sample of the population. I'll give you a little bit more detail about that in a future slide. But basically, here's one of the things we found. We can isolate any demographic label. I've chosen 3 here at random, age-based ones to show you. If we look at the boomers across 380 metrics and 400,000 surveys and see how often do baby boomers agree with each other on anything, values, wants, needs, expectations. Baby boomers agree with each other 13% of the time. 87% of the time, baby boomers disagree with each other about everything. How can we target them? You can't. They're not a group of people. They're not a group. Millennials, well, that's Generation X, they really lose. They're 11%. They only agree with each other 11% on anything. Millennials, those unicorns in the enchanted forest that we're supposed to change the world for, nothing's good enough for the millennials. The millennials only agree with each other 15% of the time. Now, to make those numbers even more remarkable, the table stakes for just being a human being is 8%. We all generally agree with each other just because we're alive around 8%. So take 8% away from all of those numbers. That's how much better your dollar and your hour is going to be if you start targeting based on age-based cohorts. Now, the same thing holds true for gender, for income, for marital status, for education, for number of kids. We could not find a single demographic tag in our entire data set that stretches around the globe where anybody agrees with each other within that tag. any more than those low teens. There was a couple of outliers that got as high as 16 and 17%, but still you take away the 8% table stakes for being human, it's still an incredibly low number. So here's what we have in order to understand audiences at the moment. We have demographics, still very important to describe a target audience. Who is in the target audiences? We need to understand that, and demographics are a great tool to do that. Psychographics, there's tons of different definitions depending on who you subscribe to and who you believe. My definition that I like to use is that psychographics are nothing more than a glance in the rearview mirror. They tell you how somebody has behaved around a certain product or category. Ginger, I'm going to pick on you because you're sitting at the front and I know you best of everybody in the room. Ginger drinks tea. So Ginger drinks 2 cups of tea a day. I'm going to say that's a psychographic fact about Ginger, but it doesn't tell me whether I can convince her to drink coffee or 6 cups of tea or get her off hot beverages entirely and onto cold beverages. I have no idea. All I can do is say that she drinks tea. I can probably get her to drink more tea. That's all we know. We're missing a way to predict what could we get Ginger to do next. That's what we've been missing. I'm going to tell you a quick story called 3 Friends in an Alley at Midnight. So 3 friends, they're out at a bar, they're having a really great time. They've had too much to drink because they haven't seen each other in a long time. And they're walking down the street, they've left the bar, they're being a little raucous, they're punching each other on the shoulder, they're having a really great time. And they turn a corner, and there's a dark alley. Friend number 1. Primary value for friend number 1 is adventure. Wants to go down the dark alley. We're drunk, we're friends, we're having a great night. Let's go down the alley. Perfect way to end the evening. Friend number 2, primary value, safety. Doesn't want to go down the dark alley at all. Wants to go back to the bar. There's other people there. There's lights, there's telephones. We can get the police if something really bad's going on. Friend number 3, primary value, friendship. Doesn't care if we go down the alley or go back to the bar as long as we do it together, as long as we stay together. Now, isn't it interesting? 3 very plausible ideas, 3 very plausible outcomes. Same set of stimuli, same night, same group of people. All 3 of those outcomes could happen. No one of those people have checked with themselves to see if they're 24 to 36. Or if they earn $100,000 a year, or if they're male or female, or have 2.3 children. All that matters as they make a decision about the future, what their behavior is going to be, is their values. It's because of this one line from the worlds of sociology, any of the human sciences, what we value determines what we do. Now, the psychologists have had this very easy for a very long time. It's easy to give somebody an MMPI inventory, to give somebody a Myers-Briggs test and figure out what the values are for one person. Being able to get the values for an entire target audience, for a product, a service, a brand, an idea, a politician, a cause, a movement, an advocacy group, that's evaded us because of lack of data, but we don't have to worry about that anymore. We've built a random stratified statistically representative sample of the population. At the moment, we've got 195 countries. We have 380 metrics. We have had to use 150 languages to collect roughly 400,000 surveys around what people value, what they want and need and expect. It has a 3.5% plus or minus accuracy level and a 95% level of confidence around that accuracy level, and it's roughly more data than a little bit more data than you need for 6 PhDs from Harvard. This stuff is bulletproof, and the reason it's bulletproof is we knew that as we were doing this, we were going to be upsetting some people. There's folks out there who make a living being a millennial consultant. Well, I'm here to tell them that that's not a job anymore. You can't go in and tell everybody what to do based on wanting to attract millennials to your company, because millennials only agree with each other 15% of the time. So how can you be a millennial consultant? How can you be an author about millennials? It just doesn't, none of these things make sense anymore. Now, if we profile people based on their values, in my book, which I've given you all a copy of today because there's all kinds of really great information in there, 3 of our top 10 value graphic archetypes, the top 10 most aligned groups of people based on their values, which you can use to replace the words boomers, Generation X, millennials. We gave them all cute little names too so that we could have like some hope of competing and getting everybody to start using these terms instead. We have the Adventure Club, the Savers Society, Tech Fellowship. I just chose those 3 at random. Those are the levels of agreement we get around those 380 metrics across that entire data set. Instead of 10%, 11%, 13%, those low numbers, we get 89%, 76%, 81%. Your dollar is working for you so much harder. Your hour is working for you so much harder. In fact, it works roughly 8 times better. So every dollar an hour that you spend trying to target a group of people using demographic profiles, you could be using a value graphic profile, and that dollar or hour would feel like and be as effective as $8 or 8 hours. Now here's something to think about. Even if I'm 50% wrong, which I'm not, we know statistically I'm plus or minus 3.5% wrong. If I am 50% wrong and all I can do is quadruple the effectiveness of every dollar an hour that you apply to a target audience, that's still pretty darn good. And if I'm 75% wrong, which I'm not, I'm only 3.5 plus or minus percent wrong with a 95% level of confidence, I can still double, even at 75% wrong. I'm doubling the effectiveness of every dollar an hour that you spend. 3 very fast client stories. The Cannabis Healthy Health Nuts, we did a poll to see who's going to be buying cannabis products in a post-legalized environment. One of the profiles that we found is a group of people who believe that cannabis is a health product. Just like vitamin C or a multivitamin, we know 2 of their primary values out of the 4 or 5 we found that they share are family and health. So as an example of how you use this stuff, we're able to say to somebody who wants to enter this market, if you want to target this audience, what you should be doing is thinking about something that's going to trigger their values around family and around health. So whatever you do, do not design vitamins, because remember, there's health-focused people. They believe cannabis is a health product. Don't make your bottle of vitamins look like gummy bears, because the kids are going to eat them. Make sure that it's a kid-proof container. It should be the most boring bottle in the world. It should probably come in the mail or from Amazon in some sort of a ripstop nylon package that the kids can't get into. And most importantly, tell everyone you've done all those things because family and health. And these folks will be eating out of your hand. The Jason Bourne bankers. This was a data poll we did around people who still like to go to banks, who want to actually go into a bank, not just go online to do their banking. One group of people, a very large, significant group that the banking industry seems to be ignoring at the moment, I call them the Jason Bourne bankers because what they want to do is stand up while they're out for drinks with their friends and say, I have to do my banking now. And they want their friends to go, wow, that must be like a multi-million-dollar Swiss bank account and funds being transferred to the Cayman Islands because you're going to the bank. They get status out of going to the bank. When they go to the bank, they don't want big fuzzy teddy bears holding balloons, selling them, chocolates to help the kids' help phone thing. They don't want any of that stuff. They want marble floors and retinal scans and fingerprints and guys bringing them, like they want to be Jason Bourne going to the Swiss bank. What has Capital One Savings just done? How many hundreds of millions of dollars have they just spent sitting around in a boardroom going, how do we get millennials to come into the bank? Millennials like coffee. Let's be coffee shops. So all those commercials we see for Capital One now, it's all, come on into our coffee shop and have a chat with us about your retirement plan. These guys are running in the other direction. They want nothing to do with that group, with those banks at all. Finally, we did a profile for a building that is going to be full of renters. The people who said they were interested in coming to live in this building, we called them the green workaholic renters. These folks are workaholics, they have a green streak, they're very environmental. Workaholics are very status focused. They are into material possessions and social standing. These are 2 of the things that drive every decision that they make. Those are their values that determine what they do. They're going to have very expensive bicycles. Very expensive bicycles. Now think about, as a renter, what we make you do with the bike. You're not allowed to bring it in the front door of the building. You can't take it on the elevator. You can't take it up to your suite. You have to go in the back door, down the back lane, down that little horrible hallway with one light bulb hanging in the ceiling. Late at night, you're a young woman coming home late because you're a workaholic. And then you have to open that door and you kind of chuck your bike in that room and hope nobody steals it. And the next morning, the whole point of having that expensive status bike is you want people to see that you have an expensive status bike. That's what these workaholics value. So what this developer did is put the bike room at grade on the main floor with a glass wall facing the lobby. So as you park your Hermes bicycle, your friends can say, nice bike. And you can go, oh, it just gets me to and from work. But inside, that's exactly the reason you bought the bike in the first place. A real estate developer who built this building would be stupid to do it unless they knew that that's the group of people who were coming. And we were able to tell them that's exactly who was going to come to their building. So to wrap up, I want to tell you 2 quick things. A very short speech today. Hopefully we can get into some more questions and answers when we get up afterwards and just in person when we're talking. But this is an 8x multiplier on all the money, all the time, all the effort that you spend trying to influence, to predict behavior for your audiences and influence how they're going to behave. Now we can also do that to influence all of the things that are going wrong in the world right now. We need to stop using single-use plastics. Well, we know how to influence people to do that. We need to do things to prevent different diseases from spreading. We can help those organizations with information on how to get that message out to the right people, triggering the right values as well. So this isn't just about us. This isn't just about commerce. This is also about the entire world. Finally, statistical data on how to make the changes happen that will make the world a better place. And who knew that it could be so simple to change the world? We just simply need to change the way we look at the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was great.